Today, I want to share with you something very, very important that I think all Jamaicans will want to pay close attention to. As you might know, Jamaica has been in a very serious situation for almost 2 years now. As President of the United Independence Congress of Jamaica, it is my duty to not only critique the government and opposition, but to also offer solutions, especially at this time. The following is the U.I.C's 5-point pandemic response plan to be rolled out immediately by the government of Jamaica to save lives, reduce the stress on our healthcare system, and begin a real grassroots economic recovery that lifts up the small men and women of this country. Number one, we want the government to close all borders to non-Jamaicans and non-permanent residents while compensating tourist industry workers for lost wages. This action will reduce incoming transmission of the virus by us only accepting Jamaicans and permanent residents of Jamaica into the country. This will reduce stress on the historically deplorable and oversubscribed public healthcare system. This action will also lead to real economic recovery in the shortest possible time. Action number two, we want the government to remove all unnecessary restrictions, duties, and taxes on pharmaceutical imports and to allow doctors full access to all treatment options. This action will give Jamaicans access to all available treatment options. This action will save many lives, as we would no longer be dependent on one solution. This action will keep more Jamaicans out of the hospitals and ease the burden on an already weak healthcare system. Number three, we want the government to remove all restrictions on freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and freedom of choice, while focusing instead on educating and empowering citizens to make good health and safety choices. This action will accelerate economic recovery and reverse the increased levels of poverty. Students will be back in the classroom immediately and begin their recovery from the near 2-year decline in their education. This action will stop the accelerated social decline that we have seen in such areas as child abuse, child pregnancies, excessive societal stress, anxiety, mental health disorders, domestic and gang violence, joblessness, business losses, hopelessness, increased divorces, and suicides. Action number four, we want the government to convene a public emergency council, something we advised the government on from the very beginning of this pandemic. This Public Emergency Council, PEC for short, or PEC, will ensure an objective, transparent, and inclusive nonpartisan response going forward. PEC will include representatives from all registered political parties, from the public and private sector, and from leading civil society groups. PEC will be led by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health and Wellness, but guided by the objective, transparent, and inclusive governance of the Council. PEC will be privy to any and all information surrounding the pandemic and any and all agreements reached between the government and any third parties, foreign or local, in order to protect the interest of all Jamaicans. Finally, action number five. The government will authorize, through legislation, the invoking of the judiciary, the Auditor General's and the Contractor General's office to audit, monitor, and validate all actions of the PEC and the government to ensure they are in keeping with the agreed upon terms of reference and that all reporting to the public are accurate, complete, and timely. These 5 pandemic response plan points are being put forward by the U.I.C to immediately correct and reverse the unfortunate policies of the government and restore some semblance of normalcy to the lives of Jamaicans and bring this pandemic under control. Please know that the U.I.C will not stop until every single citizen is safe and free to go about the business of rebuilding their lives and businesses. It is of vital importance that the government acts swiftly on these 5 points. First of all, close all borders to non-Jamaicans and non-residents, while compensating tourist industry workers for obvious lost wages. Second, remove all unnecessary restrictions, duties, and taxes on pharmaceutical imports and allow doctors full access to all treatment options. Third, remove all government restrictions on freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and freedom of choice, while focusing on educating and empowering citizens to make good health and safety choices. 4. Convene a public emergency council to ensure an objective, transparent, and inclusive non-partisan response going forward. And finally, authorize or invoke the judiciary, Auditor General's Office, the Contractor General's Office, to audit, monitor, and validate all actions of the PEC and the government to ensure they're in keeping with the agreed upon terms of reference and that all reporting to the public are actually accurate, complete, and timely. These measures will build confidence in the government, will build trust, and will allow Jamaicans to once again, or for the first time ever, be able to truly depend on its government to serve its interest. Once again, my name is Joseph Patterson, and I'm the president of the United Independence Congress. I wish you all very well. I encourage all of you to be safe, to pay attention to every possible means that you can use to keep yourself and your family safe. And I pray that and allow Jamaicans to all medical options at this very important time in our history. Thank you and have a good evening.